Okay.
Um, Perfect. Excellent question. Thank you so much. Now we'll get back to the regular programming. Just go back to the first slide since we're recording. So thank you for attending, everyone. This is a presentation, public presentation of the City of Whittier Waterfront and Economic Development Plan. We have a review period that will have an overview with schedule coming up shortly. If you have not seen the plan or are not familiar with the project website, this is a QR code that'll take you there. I'll just give you a couple seconds if anyone wants to hold your phone up to it. Otherwise, if you search Waterfront Plan and Whittier, it comes up pretty close to the top. Anyways, the City of Whittier done a good job of making that accessible via their website. This evening's agenda is to give a bit of background for the project, review where we are within the schedule, have a summary of the economic information that we have and the public input we've received to date. And then the meat of it is running through the recommendations that have been made within the document, and then having a question and answer period. And Linda, you might, if you could pop into the Teams meeting. It looks like Addison might be in there.
Yeah,
Just to give her the link.
I'm just sending a message to her.
Perfect. I will. Yeah, you probably have those coming up on your computer. So if anything comes up, if you would address those. For this evening, for the participation guidelines, we're just asking that people keep themselves muted during the meeting. Looks like everyone is. If you need to unmute yourself, you should have the ability to do that. As we go through this, if a question pops into your head, use the chat function to put the question in. And then at the end of the meeting, or as Linda is monitoring this, she'll bring it to our attention if it's better to answer it earlier. And then for being in a good space, we just ask any comments or questions be entered respectfully. Profanity won't be tolerated. And then should anything like that happen, we reserve the right to remove people from a meeting. The background, our project goal. I'm not going to read many of these slides, but this is one that I will read, is that the main goals for this were to identify opportunities to stimulate economic development and promote a stable economy for Whittier, optimize the use of city-owned or leased lands that are available for economic assets, and protecting Whittier's undeveloped tidelands and natural areas, such as Shakespeare Creek, to foster opportunities for locals and visitors to interact with the landscape and waterfront. And between the three of these, it really illustrates that three-legged stool of economy, businesses, well, maybe not a three-legged stool, maybe many legs. Economy, income for the city, able to spend it to create opportunities for local residents and for visitors, and also to protect the unique features that make Whittier and the Whittier area what it is. The schedule, we started things up last fall. In the beginning of it, we had stakeholder meetings with a number of different groups related to tourism, transportation, adjacent stakeholders like the Forest Service, etc. In January, we had a presentation of the initial economic and site analysis that we had developed, followed up with a open house that we held. We had one open house here in Anchorage, and then we had one in Whittier itself that we had good attendance for. And then the development of a draft waterfront and economic development plan, which is what we are discussing this evening. So where we are in this box in the center of the slide is August 2025. This is the third public meeting, and we're presenting the document briefly. The purpose of this presentation is to give people a summary of what the document contains, and just to be here to answer any questions. The goal from this meeting is that anybody that wants to provide feedback or comments, there is a comment collector that we are using. So this is the period where we are hoping that people can review the document closely and offer any final improvements for it. With the final waterfront and economic development plan being provided to the city of Whittier in November or before, perhaps. Oop. The economic analysis. The economic analysis is available on the project website. And then the great part of this was we had an addendum to it from the city of Whittier, from Chris, that had even more specific city of Whittier information. This is summarized within the draft document that is available with some different infographics and information. So rather than repeat that, I would direct people to the economic section within the original documents, and then the infographic type summaries that we have to make things easier to find at the end of the draft plan that we were talking about this evening. We've included the original economic report as well as Chris's summary of items. So that's all wrapped up in the one document. Public input, there's some photos here with our engagement in January when we had the 2 open houses. It was a great opportunity to have a look at plans, to identify opportunities and constraints and people's ideas for what might happen and where. And that leads into the recommendations. So on this slide is the overall extent of the project. Our scope was from the head of the bay out to Smitty's Cove. The focus areas within the document start off with the central waterfront improvements and then include DeLong Dock, Smitty's Cove, Shakespeare Creek Recreation Area, and what we're calling the head of the bay improvements. At the beginning of the section on recommendations, there's some summary items relating that are applicable to all of the areas, and we provided in there some core development principles. These relate to market-driven experiences, achieving critical mass, perceived and delivered quality, and authentic identity. I'd pause on that one because a part of that is that people don't want to lose what makes Whittier Whittier. And realistically, that's also what visitors like to see is the local. The idea of public realm excellence, the place to be, is encouraging people to want to be here, and we'll expand on this a little bit more specific examples. And then whether social media keeps on being so important, it's just that idea of a waterfront that gives people the opportunity to want to take pictures of themselves and their families and share them online, that people will want to come to Whittier and support businesses and offer economic benefit. Getting into the meat of it, we've divided the central waterfront into the Harbor Loop and then Harbor View West and East and then the Harbor Triangle. All of them focus on access and movement, is getting people to a parking place or getting people off the bus and on the bus again eventually. Ensuring that people can find their way comfortably and clearly from where they park to their destinations. Because we are talking about waterfront facilities, the marine facilities are key to this because it's not just everything on the upland or the shore side of things that we're talking about for economics. It's the fact that this is an important port with marine facilities. Underlying everything is safety. That's something that we heard during the public meetings. And then for all of these is then providing the right amenities and support for the different users who are going to be here. Seating, restrooms, garbage management without bears as being a high risk similar. And then very briefly, we touch upon some items related to materials, landscaping, site furnishings, those kind of items. So for Harbor Loop, the main focus for this is to extend the harbor walk from the east into this area. Hopefully at some point developing a visitor center or a park, really to create an initial arrival point for visitors who are coming into this area. On this map, you can see that it includes things like a potential for a covered bus shuttle stop, and then also the idea of a Whittier Gateway. When you cross that bridge for Whittier Creek, there's not really a feeling of arrival for Whittier. So it's really kind of important to get a unique identity and brand for Whittier. Within these exhibits, there's 2 color codes that we use. One is a yellow highlight, You can see a yellow highlighted plot that's labeled kiosk and gateway, and then there's one that is south of that. Those are existing lease lots that may be impacted by improvements that would require a lease trade or something like that in order to develop these areas as public access locations or for a different public use. Within this sheet, it relates to the Harbor Walk coming in from the east and then coming up into Harbor Loop Road. And then in order to replace the existing city dock, it shows a new city dock a little bit further to the west, accessed from the entrance to Harbor Loop Road. And just adding a couple more people, my apologies. There we go, adding some people. So this area then has the upland improvements with a visitor facility, and then the Harbor Walk, creating better vehicle access in here to allow buses to come in, and then new city dock. Western Harborfront, am I right? Yeah, Harborview West. This really focuses on the area around the existing harbor master office to provide a visitor amenities, a shelter, a park shelter, visitor contact, maps, those sorts of things. And then to support the harbor, looking at cart storage, a garbage enclosure, because I know the bears and garbage are a concern to people. And again, there's the yellow spaces, which are an existing lease lot, which could be impacted by improvements depending upon how much the improvements are optimized. And then there's also a purple highlight that is on here. This relates to the creation of new lease lots. The one on the left-hand side of the exhibit is where there's the existing access to the existing city dock, which would go away if and when the new city dock is moved. Otherwise, this area really focuses on kind of public park space, central facilities, potentially a use for flexible vendors such as food trucks or people that are selling items in the summer. One of the ideas that came up was that a space like this can be a nice incubator, that someone doesn't need to have an official, long-term lease for land with the city. Rather, someone could have a short-term lease, or maybe there's just occasional summer markets where people could be here to sell things or have services with the public. Then for Harborview East, a much more significant change is that the existing waterfront walk is at the top of a slope. What this plan shows is putting in a new bulkhead, filling in that area to create new upland lease parcels. So those are shown in the pink. And then central to this area is having the possibility of a playground, a park shelter, a restroom. So creating this area with much more of an opportunity for commercial opportunities for businesses on existing and new lease parcels. And then a central area that draws people based on public amenities, again, like the shelter, playground, and we're calling it Harbor Park. This area does not have any existing lease parcels that would be affected by the improvements. This area just shows the new lease lots. The Harbor Triangle, something that we heard from people was, or what they liked was an idea that in the summer, it could be that this would be closed off to car use or car parking. And the design that we show here is optimized for a bus and shuttle access. So the Harbor View area is one end of this little commercial district, and the Harbor Loop is one end of this little commercial district, and then the Harbor Triangle is at the east end of it, that someone could be dropped off on a bus on one end or the other, walk their way to the other end of it, and then to be picked up, to be taken back to cruise ship or anchorage or otherwise. With reduction of the amount of asphalt in this area, we show this blue bus covered canopy where people could wait. And then to the north of that, a little park area with an information shelter. And then a key of this is where do you guys have your existing shelter up by the breakwater would be to replace it with a new one. Hopefully with a little bit of some screening walls or a buffer from the weather, and really focus on developing that as a nicer park. And that goes back to one of the core principles is the investment in nice things. So with a new shelter, new park spaces that are well done, is to show residents as well as visitors that it's a place that's well cared for, and has the character that Whittier desires. Um, to the east, there's an existing Mariners Memorial, but it isn't necessarily focused on or celebrated very well at the moment. So the idea would be to expand that into a Mariners Memorial Park, to refine that better. A lot of our Alaskan coastal marine communities do have that special place in the community, and it's an important place to reflect or to gather and socialize. And then the southwest of the site, in order to act as a breadcrumb back to the top of the boat ramp, a little spot, this information kiosk here. One of our concerns is, and one thing we heard was getting people to be not afraid to walk across the boat ramp at the top there over to the Harbor Triangle area. So maybe one of the most important parts of this plan, which will be shown more as we talk about the head of the bay, is the removal of most of the weekend type boat ramp use and relocation of that to the head of the bay. So one of the benefits is it's expected to reduce the amount of traffic in the area of Harborview and the Triangle significantly by the people coming through the tunnel who are just accessing the sound. Right outside of the tunnel, they can go over to the head of the bay area, have the amenities that they need in a boat ramp for them to access the sound from there. That'll take off a lot of pressure that we heard for the conflicting traffic within the Harborview East area. And in this area, there's no lease lots impacted by the improvements, nor any new lease lots. So it's really working with the area that is already there, with the improvements focusing on reducing the amount of asphalt and parking that's in the area. Consistent to all of these areas is trying to encourage businesses to have employees or staff prioritize visitors for parking. So the idea being that people could park a little bit further away, walk there, and then especially probably within Harbor Loop would be leaving the on-street parking for visitors. And again, trying to focus on how the people that will be spending the money, how to make it easy for them to get to where they want to go.
Hey, Peter, can I just
Yes,
pause you for a second
sounds
and
great.
get you to look at I think there's a few people waiting to jump in.
Perfect. It usually pops up there. I'll stretch my window down there more. Yeah, we were missing a Chris. My apologies. And for anyone that was waiting, my apologies. Linda's going to poke me better.
I will.
Smitty's Cove was an easy one. It seems everybody loves it. This plan is based on people wanting to better separate commercial users from recreation users. So what this plan shows is DeLong Dock is to the north, and the existing launch and retrieval ramp is between the two of them. But the idea being that we would try to remove some of the personal watercraft use or the personal use of the launch and retrieval ramp by providing an actual personal water access ramp or structure that people can get out there with their kayaks or their small watercraft. Having some real parking to the west of it, ideally with a little bit of landscape buffer, a buffer from the industrial areas, a vault toilet in this area. And then there's not necessarily much land that's available at high tide. An option that other communities have used is to create a little bit of a rock embankment that the high tide can come up against to create some more upland area. So that really is the focus for this example is creating more of a picnic area, a shelter, and maybe fire pit and seating, but really a community amenity here. And then it's still maintaining good shoreline access from the that South Park area. And then again, really focusing on trying to give some good access to the people that are there just for themselves, family, friends. Um, oh, DeLong Dock. DeLong Dock already has some plans in the works for it, so we're showing on this what is out there. I believe that it's not necessarily funded yet. So this specifically shows what the city has looked at previously for the replacement of it. The idea being that the existing structures out there would be removed, a bulkhead would be put in, it would be filled in order to create that um, dock access, floating dock access. And another benefit is because it's being filled between the bulkhead and the land, it would create some more upland because there wouldn't be that water that's currently between the DeLong dock and the land to the south of it. Shakespeare Creek. So we're heading up to the head of the bay. The Shakespeare Creek area, there's an existing gravel area, call it a parking lot, that it has a really steep access up to the road. The parking area that we're showing here is in a similar area to that. So the intent of this is to provide a more convenient grade in order to have people be able to access into this, provide a toilet in a parking lot, provide a shoreline shelter, and then some trails and other amenities like access up to a potential fishing basin to the south of the airstrip, viewing shelters, to treat it as a natural recreation area. So trying to keep minimal improvements, but improvements in a way that allow people to access it um, relatively easily. Then head of the bay phase one. This is kind of maybe the most exciting part, perhaps, but the main issue we heard with the Whittier waterfront was the conflicting users between transport, ferry, visitors, and especially the boat trailer users for the ramp. So what this phase one shows is a new breakwater, a channel, and then a parking area to the south that it would accommodate about 150 boat trailers in a drive in and through fashion, so no having to back up, including these dashed arrows. And what you see on here is enough area that people can line up to wait to get out, stage as they approach the boat ramp area. People would enter the boat ramp from the south, um, pull forward to the west, back down the boat ramp. We're showing 4 lanes of boat ramp with 2 floats. Um, so significantly easier than the existing boat ramp facility, if not just for the fact that they are not being influenced by small cars, ferry passengers, or anything like that. This would only be trailers in this area, so it's really separating user conflicts. Then to the north of this, we just show an undifferentiated yard that could be marine service lease lots. And recognizing that some of the businesses in the waterfront area really do provide services to the boat trailer traffic. We're showing commercial lease lots at the north of the parking lot to allow businesses to be here that would help serve these the people who are heading out or coming in from the sound. The existing campground would go away. There's a light brown dash with these little brown circles around it that shows the existing campground area. We've moved it to the west of this parking lot, which is a little bit more of a traditional campground. The current campground is a big gravel space where people camp at the edge of it. This is more of a drive-through, back in to your spots for organized campground for trailer or it's camping for RVs or pulled trailers. Then this is showing phase one. Phase two for the harbor. I won't skip a slide. Phase two for this would be the potential addition of a additional moorage. So at the moment, this shows slips with for day cruise and transient moorage for vessels up to 120 foot in length. Um, that this could then be a little bit even more enabled for marine services, for bringing boats in, servicing them, with any expansion of glacier cruises, that kind of thing. It just gives a place to take the pressure off the existing waterfront to serve everyone, and this could enable additional businesses. Then one of the things that in this area is the future of the airport or the airstrip is unknown. So that's one of the reasons we kept the Shakespeare Recreation area south of the airport, and then we tried to keep everything for this area north of the airport. Sorry, not airport, airstrip. If that airstrip ever does change or go away, it's another opportunity for development in the area, whether for camping or to buffer the recreation area. But it's a spot that we haven't necessarily planned because it's an unknown spot. And similarly, the tank farm parcel provides a great opportunity for commercial or marine use, lease lots, storage. There are whole lots of things that we heard that it would be nice to have some extra land in Whittier that could be used for specific purposes. Because currently the lease lots currently the city of Whittier lease lots are under optimized for how they get used because there's just nowhere for people to park or to store things, so it winds up getting used for everything. So really a key part of this plan, in summary, is we're trying to find the correct spot for the correct use and provide lands that can be used for one purpose. Because when you mix all of the purposes together, it creates a fair amount of, it creates opportunity for conflict for a number of different reasons. Just going to admit two more people. So coming into the toward the end for questions. Next steps, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, please review the draft waterfront and economic development plan. The QR code and this link that you see in front of you right now are for the comment collector that we have. The comment collector is via SurveyMonkey. It'll ask you a couple questions just to validate that that you're human or otherwise, and then it'll allow you to put in your comments. And we would ask, be as specific as you can with any comments you provide. And if there's anything where you have ideas or ways to improve something or a solution for a problem that you might pose, it's great if people can be solution forward. So really kind of help us to understand what your comment, question, concern might be, so that we can best use it for the process. And it's always nice to get good things too. So if you think the plan is good or there's something within it that resonates with you or you think it's a good solution to your problems, please do reinforce that with us because it's a good thing for the city to hear that there are pieces within the plan that will really positively impact residents. And the reiteration again of the schedule. There's a 45-day comment period, which ends September 10th. Having your comments in by the end of that period would be fantastic. And then after that, it's plan refinements and submitting the final plan to the city of Whittier for their final reviews and approvals. And with that, I'll just, before we open it up for Linda to guide us through the questions, I'll just reiterate, if anyone does have any questions, at least at the beginning, if you could put them into the chat, Linda will go through them to read them out for the team to answer as best we can. The intent of this evening was not to give you the 100% thorough presentation of the document. It was to give you a pretty high-level fly-through of it. So if there are any questions or comments that we can help with for your specific interest this evening, please do enter it into the chat. And when we get toward the end of the chat, we'll see how much time is left and perhaps have some discussion. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. And Linda, do you want to start to guide us with questions for the team?
We don't have any questions. We did have one comment about whether this presentation might be posted on Facebook or on the city website. So the recording and the presentation will be updated on the city website for links to both of those. I've also provided links in the chat for the comment collector that's currently open, and we're just looking for comments on the plan or ideas. And the city website link is also in there, which will take you to the project page. And that has all of the information that we've done so far. So that has under the resources, you can find the community outreach plan, meeting agendas and minutes of the stakeholder meetings that we held back in December. And then there's also the draft plan documents, the economic analysis, the City of Whittier financials, and then, of course, a link to the comment collector.
And then I think one thing that I did forget for summary within the economic aspects is that what it was identified is that the current mortgage costs of the city of Whittier charges seem to be in line with other places because of how phenomenally convenient Whittier is to Anchorage. There could be opportunities for raising those mortgage rates, but everybody always wants to be cognizant, to be aware of the locals that are there. Different places can have local rates versus different rates, so there's ways to have a look at something like that. And then what we did identify is that the current lease rates for the existing lease lots are much lower than other areas. So similarly, there's an opportunity in there to bring the back up to market rate. And within all of this, the biggest things that we heard was the user conflicts. Again, just stressing that with so many different users in every area of Whittier, you can't help but have some issues. So this waterfront plan is really meant to start to move different users away from each other to clear up congestion, and then a lot of benefits will come out of that. So really, if there was one awesome outcome of this, it would be the trailers at the head of the bay. That would be an amazing benefit right off the bat.
I also just dropped into the chat a link to the recording for the first public meeting that goes over the economic analysis and dives into a lot of that information in more depth. So I still am not seeing any comments coming in. I think if anybody potentially wanted to unmute themselves.
Yeah, if anybody has any verbal questions or comments, we'd love to hear them. Otherwise, we can always free people up for a Wednesday night. Hearing none so far. And again, I really would encourage you, as you look at the plan, please do. If there are things in it that you look at it and you go, I'm glad they have this in there. The comment collector is a great place to comment on what you think is really good. So please do get in there if you've got something we need to fix or if there's stuff that's good. With that, we'll head
Dave,
on the slow countdown for questions. Dave, any closing words like Linda's alluding to?
I just harken back to the old story. If you don't vote, you can't complain. So feed us the info and let's just build off of this. I think it'll be great. Thank you.
With that, thank you all for attending. And please let other people know, send your links to your coworkers, friends for the comment collector and the report. The more that we hear back, the more likely it is it'll be the right plan for Whittier. And that's a critical part.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Great job.
We will hopefully hear from you folks. Take care. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Did you stop the recording, Peter?
I need to stop the recording.